It was a night that felt colder than death itself. The small town slept under a blanket of snow, but even the snow looked cruel, sharp, and merciless. The streets were empty. Street lamps flickered like tired eyes. The wind whistled through broken fences carrying dust of ice and whispers of fear. In the middle of that silence, a woman walked. Her steps were slow, her body shaking, her breath heavy as smoke in the freezing air. She looked like any other homeless woman, clothes torn, face hidden under a hood, but there was something different, something strange. Her eyes. If anyone looked close enough, they would see they were not the eyes of a normal human. They glowed faintly, like a dying candle. But nobody looked. Nobody wanted to. She stopped at a small wooden house. Her hand, trembling and weak, lifted and knocked on the door. "Please help me," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the wind. Inside, a light turned on. Shadows moved. A man peeked through the curtain. He saw her, thin, shivering, almost collapsing. But the moment his eyes met hers, fear gripped his heart. He quickly pulled the curtain back, switched off the light, and pretended he never saw her. The woman lowered her head. Her lips trembled. "Allah. Why?" she murmured softly. She turned and walked again, her feet sinking into the snow. Door after door, house after house. She knocked on another door. This time, a dog barked viciously. From inside, a woman's voice shouted, "Go away! We don't want beggars here!" The door slammed shut. At the third house, she begged, "Just a little warmth, please." The man inside opened the door halfway, then noticed her glowing eyes. His face turned pale. Without a word, he slammed the door harder than the first. Her heart cracked a little more. Each rejection felt like a knife. She could no longer tell if the cold outside was worse, or the cold inside human hearts. As she moved through the silent neighborhood, her hood slipped for a moment. A faint glow ran along her neck, like lines of light under her skin. Quickly, she pulled the hood back and covered herself. If anyone saw, she knew what would happen. The wind grew stronger. Snow fell harder. Her body felt like it was made of stone. Every step was heavy, every breath sharper. But she could not stop. She must not stop. Her memory burned inside her mind. Fire in the sky, a ship breaking apart, screams, then silence. She had run. She had hidden. And now she was here, alone. Freezing, unwanted. Knock. Silence. Knock again. Each time the answer was the same. Doors shutting, curtains closing, hearts turning away. She whispered to herself, 17 doors. 17 hearts and all closed. By now her hands were purple from the cold. Her lips were turning blue. She could barely see through the snow. Still, she dragged her body forward. The street stretched endlessly before her, like a cruel test. The houses stood like stone giants, watching but never helping. Somewhere in the distance a sound echoed, a strange humming, faint but growing. She froze. Her eyes widened. That sound. She remembered it. It wasn't from this earth. Fear rushed through her veins. She staggered forward, faster now, even as her legs wanted to give up. She couldn't. Let them find her, not yet, not like this. Finally, she reached another house, the 18th. She leaned against the door, her last strength almost gone. Her fist lifted weakly and tapped against the wood. Knock, knock, knock. Then silence. Her body slid down, resting against the door. Tears fell down her face, mixing with snow. Please. Kisi ek insan ka dil to naram hoga. She whispered, half-conscious, her words breaking. Inside the house, footsteps moved. A lock clicked. The door creaked open slightly. A man stood there, staring down at her. His eyes narrowed, shocked at what he saw. The night was still. The only sound was the storm outside and the faint, desperate breathing of the woman who did not belong to this world. The storm grew angrier as the woman moved deeper into the neighborhood. Her shadow stretched long under the flickering street lamps. But no one cared for shadows on such a night. Every window she passed was glowing warm with family laughter inside. Yet, every glow was a reminder that she was an outsider. Her hands shook as she lifted them to the next door. Knock. Knock. For a long moment, nothing. Then the door creaked open an inch. A middle-aged man looked out, his face wrinkled, eyes cautious. "What do you want?" he asked sharply. Cold. Thansi Marjangi. Just a little warmth," she whispered. The man's eyes narrowed. He scanned her face and caught a glimpse of that faint, unnatural shimmer in her eyes. Instantly, he pushed the door closed, bolted it, and hissed, "Not here, never here." The sound of the lock clicking was louder than thunder to her ears. She turned away, whispering, "One more door closed." At the second house, she found courage to knock louder. A child's curious face peeked from behind curtains. For a moment, her heart softened. Children never judge. But the child's mother rushed forward, yanked the curtain, and shouted from inside, "Go away! We don't feed strangers." The glow of hope faded from her eyes. The third door opened with anger. A dog barked furiously, pulling at its chain. The owner yelled, "Leave before I let him loose." The dog's teeth shone white in the dark, ready to tear her apart. She backed away, hands trembling, whispering, "I am no enemy, I only need to live." But no one listened. Each door she tried, each knock she made was like another wound added to her body. At the sixth door, a group of young men laughed cruelly when they saw her. "Look at her face, glowing like some ghost," one mocked. Another threw a piece of bread onto the snow, shouting, "Eat like the dogs do." She bent down, picked it up, and held it in her hand. But she couldn't eat. Her pride as a living being, whether human or not, refused this insult. She dropped the bread and walked away. Her tears mixed with the snow. The 10th door was quiet, peaceful. She knocked softly, almost hoping someone kind lived there. An old woman opened it. Her eyes, tired but gentle, looked at the stranger. "Daughter, what are you doing outside in this cold?" The alien woman's lips trembled. "Please, just for a moment. I need—" But before the old woman could answer, a man's voice thundered from inside. "Amma, don't talk to her, shut the door." The old woman hesitated, but fear won. The door closed slowly. This rejection hurt the most, because kindness had almost reached her, then vanished. By the 12th door, she could barely walk. Her legs felt like stone, her chest burned. Every breath left smoke in the icy night. She knocked again. A window opened above and someone poured water down on her head. Freezing water. The voice laughed. "Go freeze somewhere else, ghost woman." Her body shook violently. She wrapped her torn cloak tighter, whispering in broken voice, 17 hearts, all ice. When she reached the 15th door, she no longer hoped for warmth. She only wanted a human voice not filled with hatred. But even there, the family shouted, "We know what you are. Don't bring your curse here." Her glowing veins shone faintly as fear grew in her heart. "They know," she thought. "They can see I don't belong here." By the 17th door, she was barely alive, her hands numb, her lips pale, her hood slipping again to reveal the strange light running under her skin. She leaned against the wall, trying to stay upright. Her knock was so weak it was almost silent. A young woman inside opened the door just enough to see her. For a brief second, compassion filled her face. But behind her, a man shouted angrily, "Close it, she's dangerous." The young woman's eyes fell, and the door shut softly, like a final goodbye. 17 doors, 17 rejections. The alien woman stood alone in the snow, surrounded by houses but more alone than she had ever been in the vastness of space. She whispered to herself, "Humans, all hearts locked. No one sees. No one cares." Her body trembled violently, Her vision blurred, and then she heard it again, that humming sound. Far in the sky, faint but growing louder. The sound of the ones who were searching for her. Panic cut through her exhaustion. She stumbled forward, desperate for one more chance. Her eyes locked on the 18th house at the end of the street. She whispered, "Just one more. Ek aur darwaza. Maybe Allah will leave one heart open." And with the last piece of strength left in her fragile body, she knocked. Knock, knock, knock. The 18th door had not opened yet. The woman leaned against its frame, her body shivering, her eyelids heavy. Snowflakes settled on her torn coat like tiny knives. She whispered, half conscious, "Please, Ek insan, just one heart." Her mind drifted between the present and the past. The cold street blurred, and another image forced itself into her thoughts. An image of burning skies, explosions, and screams. She remembered her home. Not a house, not even a city, but a world. A world with oceans of silver and forests that glowed at night. Her people lived under stars closer than Earth had ever known. They were not warriors, not conquerors, but wanderers and builders. Peaceful, curious, loving. Until the day the darkness came, the sky had ripped open with fire. Ships like monsters descended. They had no faces, no compassion, only hunger. They hunted her people like prey. She remembered running, holding her sister's hand. "Don't let go," her sister had cried. But in the chaos, the hand slipped away, her eyes stung with frozen tears. She had escaped on a broken vessel, a ship barely holding together. She had thought she was free until she crashed here on Earth. Since that day, she had hidden, covered her glow, walked in shadows. But tonight the cold was stronger than her strength, and the sound in the sky told her something terrifying. They had found her again. Her head dropped as her knees buckled, but she caught herself against the door. The faint lines beneath her skin pulsed, like veins filled not with blood but with light. For a moment the glow slipped through her hood, shining against the snow. If anyone saw her now, they would know instantly she was not one of them. Her breathing grew faster. She clutched her chest, whispering, "Hide it, Chupao." They must not see. But memory refused to let her hide. She remembered her mother's words before the world burned. "If ever you are alone, never forget, you are not weak. Your light is your strength. One day, someone will see it and not fear it." Those words clung to her now like the last flame in endless dark. A gust of wind howled down the empty street, carrying with it a low hum. The sound of machines, not cars, not planes, something far more alien. Her heart pounded. She knew what it was. The hunters. They would not stop until she was gone. She forced herself to stand. Her legs shook. She turned her face to the sky. Between the thick clouds, a faint light moved unnaturally, scanning the earth below. She pulled her hood tighter and pressed her forehead against the 18th door. "Please open before they see me." Inside her mind, another image rose. The moment her ship had crashed, the fire, the sound of tearing metal, the world spinning, and then the silence of Earth's forest. She had crawled out of the wreckage barely alive. For weeks she had survived on little food, hiding by rivers and caves. She had seen humans from a distance, their laughter, their homes. She had dreamed of joining them, but each time she came close, fear in their eyes pushed her back into shadows. And now the cycle repeated. 17 doors closed, 17 hearts locked. Her lips moved slowly, whispering, "Maybe humans are not ready. Maybe no one is ready." But deep inside, a spark of hope refused to die. Her hand brushed against her neck where the glowing lines were strongest. They were not random. They formed patterns, constellations, maps of her lost world. Each line carried memory, each glow, a reminder of who she was. She whispered to herself, "I cannot erase what I am." The snowstorm thickened. The wind screamed like the voices of her lost people. She almost collapsed, but forced herself to stand, leaning against the wooden door. Her glowing veins pulsed brighter now, almost uncontrolled. She pressed her hands against them, whispering desperately, "Stop! Ruk jao! They will see." But it was too late. Far in the sky, the scanning light paused. It flickered, then focused, as if something had caught its attention. The hum grew louder, her chest tightened. She looked at the 18th door once more, her voice shaking. "If you don't open, they will find me. And maybe they will find you too." She closed her eyes, preparing for the sound of rejection again, the sound of a lock clicking shut. But instead, she heard movement inside, footsteps, the creak of floorboards, then the slow turn of a key. The door handle shifted. Light spilled from the crack. Warm, golden human light. Her heart skipped. The 18th door was opening. The 18th door creaked slowly, as if even the wood was unsure whether to open or remain shut like all the others. The freezing woman held her breath. Her weak body leaned against the frame, half ready to collapse. Her glowing veins pulsed, faintly in the storm's darkness, each flicker threatening to expose her secret. At last, the door opened wide enough for a man to appear. He stood tall, wrapped in a thick sweater, his hair messy as if he had just woken. His eyes scanned the stranger on his doorstep. For a long, heavy moment he said nothing. The woman's lips trembled. "Please, cold, tand simar yangi." Her voice was broken, fragile, almost lost in the roar of the wind. The man frowned. He had seen beggars before, wanderers before. But this woman, something was different. Her face was pale, her eyes glowing faintly like dying embers, her body shaking as if every heartbeat was a battle. Instinct told him to close the door, to lock it like everyone else. That was safer, easier. The world outside was cruel, but the world inside his home was warm and safe. Why risk that? And yet, something in her eyes made him hesitate. It wasn't just desperation. It was something deeper. Fear. Not the kind of fear humans carried, but a fear that reached beyond this earth. The storm howled, impatient. The woman swayed, her knees giving way. She fell forward, almost collapsing at his feet. Her hood slipped slightly, and for a second, he saw it. The faint glow under her skin like starlight trapped inside flesh. His breath caught. His first thought, "This is not human." But his second thought, louder than the first, was, "This is dying." She lifted her face weakly, whispering, "I knocked. 17 doors. Subne band kar diye. You, please." Her last word cracked like glass. The man's hand hovered at the edge of the door. A choice: shut her out, and she would die. Let her in, and who knows what danger followed. His heart raced. His mind argued, but his humanity spoke louder than fear. He stepped aside. "Come in," he said quietly. The woman's eyes widened. For the first time that night, light reflected in her tears. Not the glow of her veins, but the glow of hope. She stumbled forward. The warmth of the house wrapped around her like a forgotten memory. Her frozen hands trembled as she clutched the edge of a chair. The fire crackled in the fireplace, its glow dancing across her face. The man closed the door quickly behind her, shutting out the storm, but he couldn't shut out his questions. He studied her carefully. The glow had dimmed again, hidden under her skin. But he had seen enough to know she was no ordinary beggar. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice cautious. She shivered, unable to answer immediately. He fetched a blanket and draped it over her shoulders. Steam rose as the snow melted from her coat. "Drink this," he said, offering her a cup of warm tea. Her trembling hands barely held it, but she sipped slowly, her eyes closing as if this one moment of warmth was the greatest gift she had ever known. Then she opened her eyes and whispered, "Not Human. The man froze. He had expected many answers. A runaway, a sick woman, even a thief. But not this. Silence stretched. The only sound was the crackling fire and the storm outside. He stared at her glowing eyes, her trembling lips. He wanted to deny it, to tell himself the cold had played tricks on his vision, but deep inside he already knew. She wasn't lying. The woman lowered her gaze. 17 doors closed. Because they saw. They knew I was different. And they were afraid. Her voice cracked. I am afraid too. The man swallowed hard. Fear tugged at him. But another voice inside whispered, she is not dangerous. She is lost. She is broken. Then came a sound that cut through the fire's warmth, a low, distant hum. The woman's head snapped up. Her eyes widened with terror. They are coming, she whispered. They followed me. They always follow. The man frowned. Who? She clutched his arm, her strength returning only through fear. Not human. Hunters. If they find me, they will find you too. Her words sent a chill deeper than the storm. He looked toward the window. Through the swirling snow, a faint, unnatural light flickered in the sky, scanning, searching. The man's chest tightened. He knew he had only two choices now. Push her back out into the storm, let the danger pass. Or stand by her side, whatever came. His fists clenched. His mind screamed caution. But his heart once again whispered louder. He met her terrified eyes. Then we hide you, he said firmly. As long as you're under my roof, no one takes you. For the first time, her tears were not of fear, but of relief. She whispered, thank you, Insan. But above the house, the humming grew louder. The storm outside was no longer the only threat. The real danger had finally arrived. The storm outside raged on, but inside the little house, silence pressed heavy between them. The man had shut the door, locking the world out. Yet the danger had not left. It hovered in the air, like the low hum still echoing faintly from the sky. The woman sat close to the fireplace, wrapped in the thick blanket he had given her. Her hands trembled as she held the warm cup. Steam curled upward, warming her frozen face. She breathed slowly, as if afraid the moment of comfort would vanish. The man watched her carefully from across the room. His mind was racing. Who was she? What had he just brought into his home? But more than questions, there was something else. An undeniable pull. Something told him this night would change everything. He broke the silence first. What is your name? The woman's lips parted but then closed again. She hesitated, her eyes lowering to the floor. Finally, in a soft whisper, she said, my people called me Arya, on your world. I have no name. Her voice cracked slightly, as if the word people carried too much pain. The man nodded slowly. Arya. I'm Daniel. The names hung in the air like two fragile bridges finally connecting. Arya sipped the tea again. Her body shook less now, but the glow under her skin had begun to pulse faintly in the warmth. Daniel noticed it more clearly this time. The faint silver lines along her neck, almost like living constellations moving beneath her skin. He stared. What are those? Arya looked at him, her glowing eyes tired but sharp. Memories. My people are born with them. They tell us who we are, where we come from. She lifted her hand slightly. The skin along her palm shimmered faintly, revealing tiny star-like dots. Each light is a map of my world, a world that no longer exists. Her voice broke on the last word. She pulled the blanket tighter, as if hiding the glow would also hide the pain. Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to ask more, but he could see her trembling, not just from cold, but from grief. He changed the subject. You're safe here. No, one's going to hurt you tonight. Arya shook her head quickly. No, you don't understand. They will come. The hunters. They never stop. Her glowing eyes met his, filled with fear. If they find me here, you will die too. Daniel leaned forward. Then let them come. Arya blinked, shocked by his calmness. She whispered, Why? Why would you risk for me? 17 doors, closed. Even when I begged. Daniel looked into the fire, his jaw tightening. Because shutting the door would mean I wasn't human anymore. The words hung in the warm air. Arya stared at him as if searching for a lie, but found none. For the first time since her crash on Earth, she felt something she thought had died long ago. Trust. Daniel moved to the small kitchen. He placed bread, soup, and a little honey on the table. Eat. You need strength. Arya's eyes widened, as if she hadn't seen such food in months. She touched the bread gently, then bit into it with hunger, her hands shaking as she ate. Daniel watched silently. Each bite she took reminded him of the fragility in front of him. This wasn't a monster, wasn't a threat. She was a refugee, lost, freezing, starving. Arya paused mid-bite and whispered softly in broken Urdu, Shukriya, Insan. But even in the moment of comfort, shadows moved outside. The hum above grew stronger for a second, then faded, as if searching. Daniel's eyes flicked toward the window nervously. Arya noticed. She placed the bread down, her face tightening. They are near. I can feel them. Daniel clenched his fists. Then we hide you. Arya shook her head. No hiding. If they come inside, you cannot fight them. Daniel stared at her glowing eyes. Then tell me what they are. Tell me what we're up against. She hesitated. The firelight reflected off her tears. Finally, she whispered, They are not hunters of animals. They are hunters of light. My people. We carried light in our bodies, and they consumed it. To them, I am not alive. I am food. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at her glowing, veins now understanding their danger. Then all the more reason I can't let them take you, he said firmly. Arya's eyes softened. No one had ever spoken for her like this, not even her own people at the end. For a brief moment, there was peace. The storm outside calmed slightly. The fire warmed the room. Daniel sat across from her, while Arya clutched the blanket and food like a lifeline. But peace never lasts long. A sudden thud hit the outside wall. Both of them froze. The window rattled, then silence. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Arya's body shook with fear. She whispered, They are here. The thud against the wall faded, but its echo lingered in the room like a warning. The storm outside had grown quieter, but silence was no comfort now. It was the silence of predators before a strike. Daniel stood near the window, fists clenched, listening. Arya sat trembling by the fire, the glow under her skin pulsing brighter than before, as if her fear made it impossible to hide. They know, she whispered. They can smell the light. They are close. Daniel turned to her. Then, tell me, no more half-truths. Who are they? What are they? Arya's glowing eyes locked on his. She had run from this question at 17 doors, but at the 18th she knew there was no running anymore. She took a deep, shaking breath. I am the last of my people. We were not fighters. We carried light inside us. Energy. Memory. Life itself. To us it was beauty, to them it was food. Her voice cracked. They came from the dark between stars. No faces, no hearts. Only hunger. They tore through our world like fire through paper. My people screamed, and one by one their lights went out. Consumed. Tears rolled down her face, glowing faintly, as they fell. She clutched the blanket tighter. I escaped, but to them I am not a refugee. I am prey, and they will not stop. Daniel's jaw tightened. He could almost see it in his mind. The monsters hunting across galaxies, chasing a woman into his small human town. His breath grew heavy. This was no ordinary night. This was war disguised as snow. Arya continued, her voice softer now, breaking under the weight of memory. When I knocked on those doors, I wasn't just asking for shelter. I was asking for a chance to live. But every heart I met was frozen. Until yours. She looked at him with desperate honesty. If you close your door now, they will take me. And when they are done with me, they will look at you next. Outside, the humming grew louder, vibrating the glass of the window. A faint, unnatural light flickered against the snow. Shadows moved, not like humans, but twisted, elongated. Daniel stepped closer to the fire, his face half lit, half hidden. Then they won't have you. Not tonight. Arya shook her head. You don't understand. You cannot fight them with fire or steel. They do not fear bullets. They do not bleed. Daniel's voice hardened. Then how do we fight? Arya hesitated. The glow in her veins pulsed brighter, spreading up her arms and neck like rivers of starlight. She lifted her hand. With this, my light. It can destroy them, but using it will kill me. Daniel froze. Kill you? Arya nodded slowly, tears in her glowing eyes. My people's light is our soul. If I unleash it fully, it burns everything, including me. That is why I ran. I wanted to live, not die as a weapon. She lowered her gaze. But maybe tonight I have no choice. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. The fire crackled, the storm whispered outside, and the hum grew louder. He looked at her, at the trembling figure in his chair. Fragile, yet carrying a power beyond imagination. He stepped closer, kneeling in front of her. Listen to me. You don't die here. You hear me? You escaped for a reason. If your people's light is gone, then yours must survive. Otherwise, the hunters win. Arya stared at him, stunned by the conviction in his voice. Daniel continued, his eyes fierce. You said 17 doors closed. Mine will not. Not for you. If we fight together. But I won't let you burn yourself away. A loud crash shook the house. Something heavy landed on the roof, its claws scraping the wood. The lights flickered. The hum grew into a growl. Arya gasped, clutching Daniel's arm. They are here. The ceiling groaned as the weight above shifted. A shadow stretched across the wall, long and twisted. Daniel grabbed a metal poker from the fireplace, gripping it like a sword. His hands shook, but his eyes burned with determination. Arya whispered, her voice trembling. You cannot fight them with iron. Daniel looked at her. Then teach me. Show me what to do. Because if your light is their weakness, then maybe together we stand a chance. Arya's chest rose and fell rapidly. She had lived her entire life running, hiding, begging for survival. But in Daniel's words, there was something she had never heard before. Defiance. A human ready to stand beside her, not shut her out. For the first time, she considered the impossible. Maybe her light was not meant to be a curse. Maybe with him it could become a weapon that saved instead of destroyed. Her trembling stopped. She placed her glowing hand over his. The heat of her energy hummed through him like electricity. If I share it with you, she whispered, the hunters will feel it. They will come harder. But maybe you can carry part of my light without burning. Daniel nodded firmly. Then give me what you can. We fight as one. The house shook again. The roof began to split. A screech echoed through the night, sharp enough to pierce the soul. Arya and Daniel rose together, firelight casting long shadows behind them. Her veins glowed brighter, spilling light into the room like a galaxy reborn. His grip tightened on the poker, but now it hummed faintly, with her energy. Outside, the storm went silent. The hunters had arrived. The roof trembled under the hunters' weight. Each claw dragged across the wood like nails tearing through bone. The walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The storm outside had gone silent, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Inside, the fire's glow fought against the creeping shadows. Daniel and Arya stood side by side, her hand glowing in his. his iron poker now humming faintly with her light. Their eyes met, not human to human, not alien to alien, but soul to soul. A deafening screech tore through the night. The window cracked as a shape pressed against it. Long fingers with skin like smoke, eyes burning like coal. One hunter had found them. Arya's veins flared brighter. She whispered, "If I release everything, they will burn, but so will I. That is my fate." Daniel gritted his teeth. "No, not fate. Choice. Tonight, we choose." The wall splintered. A claw pushed through, scraping across the floor. Daniel raised the poker, its tip glowing faintly with borrowed starlight. He had no idea how to fight creatures from beyond the stars, but fear no longer controlled him. Arya stepped forward, her glow intensifying. Her body trembled, energy sparking from her skin like fragments of lightning. Her voice cracked with pain and power. "They will not stop until I am gone. If I burn, they die. If I hide, they return again. Better it ends here." Daniel turned, gripping her shoulders. His voice thundered with desperate humanity. "You don't die tonight. You, hear me? Not while I breathe." Arya's glowing eyes widened. No one had ever spoken for her like that. The house shuddered as the first hunter pushed through the broken wall, its body twisting unnaturally, its mouth opening into a void. It screeched, reaching for Arya. Daniel roared, swinging the glowing poker. The strike landed across the creature's chest. Instead of passing through like ordinary iron, the blow burned with Arya's light. The hunter screamed, smoke rising from its body as it staggered back. Daniel stared at the weapon in shock. "It works," Arya gasped. "Your courage carries my light. Together, we can fight." Another crash shook the roof. Two more hunters dropped through, their forms crawling along the ceiling like spiders. The room filled with shadows, their voices like whispers of death. Arya's glow flared uncontrollably now, casting galaxies across the walls. Her body shook violently. She whispered, "Daniel, if I give you more of my light, you will burn too." Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we burn together, but we don't surrender." The hunters lunged. Daniel swung, striking one across the head. Light burst like fire, sending the creature crashing into the wall. Arya lifted both hands, releasing a wave of shimmering energy that knocked another backward. Her body shook violently from the effort. The last hunter shrieked, charging forward. Daniel braced for the strike, but at the last second Arya threw herself in front of him. Her body blazed with starlight, shielding him. The hunter's claws met her light, and it screamed in agony, retreating into smoke. Daniel caught her as she collapsed, her glow flickering. "Arya," her voice was faint, trembling. "If I burn, promise me. Don't let it be for nothing." Daniel shook his head, tears stinging his eyes. "No, you're not a sacrifice. You're hope. If we fight together, we win together. That's the only way." The hunters regrouped, circling. Their whispers filled the room like poison. "Light, feed, consume." Daniel pulled Arya up beside him. She leaned weakly against his shoulder, her glow dimming but still alive. He raised the poker once more, her hand pressed against his arm, fueling it with what little she had left. The final battle exploded. Light clashed with shadow. Screams shook the walls. Daniel fought with fury, striking, burning, refusing to yield. Arya's energy surged through him, every strike brighter, every roar louder. Finally, with one last desperate swing, they drove the hunters back through the broken wall. Their bodies dissolved into smoke, screeches fading into the storm. Then, silence. Daniel stood panting, the poker still glowing faintly in his hands. Arya collapsed into his arms, her glow nearly gone, but her chest still rising and falling. He held her tightly. "We did it, you're safe." Her lips trembled. "Safe. For now. They will return. They always return." Daniel looked into her, glowing eyes, his voice steady. "Then let them. Next time they won't just face you alone. They'll face both of us." Arya's tears shimmered like stars. For the first time since she had left her broken world, she smiled. Maybe humans are worth knocking for after all. The storm outside began to fade. The night was still broken, the house scarred, but inside there was fire, warmth, and something stronger than fear. A bond, not just between man and alien, but between two souls who refused to let darkness win. The 18th door had opened, and with it, a new story had begun.